Welcome to the Real Estate Mentor Podcast, the number one real estate mentorship podcast on the internet today. Thank you so much for joining us. I am excited to have two special guests with us today. The topic is going to be short-term rentals, how to buy and how to manage those in other states. So a state other than which you live in today, which is becoming very, very common. I myself work with a number of people who do that. A lot of people have questions about it, so we want to address some of the main questions that people have, bring you some information and clarity in case that's something that you would like to do as well. I'll introduce you to my guests. First, we have Tyler Coon. He is the CEO and founder of Savvy Realty, brokered by eXp, and located in Asheville, North Carolina. He specializes in short-term rental investments. And since 2019, he has dedicated his career to helping clients navigate the complexities of short-term rental investments, leveraging his extensive knowledge and experience in the industry while providing top-notch service. I work pretty closely with Tyler on some deals. We haven't done one start to finish yet, but I know that is soon to be in our future. And of course, Justin Reid, who needs no introduction, my amazing husband. He is a seasoned short-term rental host with a wealth of experience in managing short-term rental properties across various states. He was formerly the CEO of Key Source Properties. That was our short-term rental management company here in Louisville, Kentucky. And he oversaw the management of 70 short-term rental properties simultaneously at the height of our business before COVID. His hands-on approach and strategic insights have made him a respected figure in the short-term rental community, and his expertise lies in optimizing rental operations and maximizing returns for property owners. Thank you both so much for being with us today on the pod.
Thank you for having us.
There we go. You're welcome. So, Tyler, let's get started with you and talk about the purchase process. Justin and I, we own a short-term rental in Boone, North Carolina, not too far from you there in Asheville. We bought it back in 2016, sight unseen. We used a real estate agent who, wasn't necessarily a short-term rental expert. And this was before we even started our management company. So I know that you work with a number of people. You kind of specialize in the North Carolina area, but you have other agents working in other markets. You yourself sell in other markets. So tell us about the journey of how you got into being able to specialize in short-term rental real estate transactions.
Yeah, I think like everyone, when I started in real estate, I was a generalist, right? Most real estate agents are. They're they'll work with anybody, first-time home buyers or people moving to and from the area. And
it's hard to say
I was
no.
doing a lot of...
Hard to say no to business.
And I would actually say that was my key to everything, was learning how to say no. And I had some opposition there. So in 2019, right before COVID, I had a real estate team. I had a business partner. We had buyer's agents. We had a listing agent. We had assistants. And we had built the whole thing. And we're doing each probably about $12 to $15 million a year in business. And which is okay for a real estate agent. Not the best and also not the worst by far. It's a decent living. And I started working with a few short-term rental buyers, and I got really good at it. And my buyers were really happy. I had one client that ended up buying 9 short-term rentals with me in 1 year.
Wow.
And I had a lot of fun with it. I was really good at running the numbers. I liked not having to work with 9 different clients over 9 different transactions. Like, I actually got really close to that buyer. We became almost like family.
Yeah.
And
across
we were
9
on the
transactions,
phone.
I can imagine. I mean, that happens very often with one.
I mean, we would talk about like marital issues, and like we were really, really close. We became really good friends. And I kind of looked at this and I was like, I want to do only this. I really fell in love with the process. So I walked into my business partner's office. I was like, I have a crazy idea. We should only do short-term rentals. We should stop doing everything that we've worked for up until this point and click the reset button. And he was like, you're crazy. It will never work. You're talking about a subset of a subset market. We're not even in like Orlando. We're not in Nashville. We're not in the Smokies. So how are we going to do that here? And I was so convicted. I went off on my own and I did click the reset button. And I started telling clients, no, I don't work with first-time home buyers anymore. I don't work with people moving to and from the area. And my business exploded. And I ended up doing $55 million in business the very next year, which was like 3 or 4 times more. I mean, it was like I worked 24/7 for it, but it totally blew up. And it made me the number 2 agent in our entire area that year. Up until today, where right now I'm about to hit 50 million and we're just past that like halfway mark of the year, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like so grateful for everything, but that's how I ended up where I am today.
I see you posting those sales on Facebook and Instagram all the time, and I'm following along and cheering you from Louisville.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So doing, 55 million so far this year, and we're just in July 2024. So tell us about your markets. And I know that you have, some agents that work with you. What does that makeup look like? What territories are you covering right now?
Yeah, so about 2 years into this journey, I had clients that were coming to me and saying things like, hey, do you know an agent that does what you do in Virginia or in New Jersey? Mm-hmm. And at the time I didn't really. I was just starting to kind of create this network of people that maybe knew sort of what they were doing, but not to the extent that, the level of service that I wanted to provide for my clients. And so I thought to myself, like, how can I pass along the knowledge that I have kind of created so far for myself and in the experience that I've had to other agents in different areas? And so I started hiring agents on my team where a normal real estate team might build locally. For short-term rental agents, I decided to build into different cities. Mm-hmm. And so today I still handle all my own sales personally here in Asheville. I have some help. I have a licensed assistant. I have transaction coordinators and things like that. But I still talk to every client myself. I still handle all the negotiations myself. And we are in about 10 cities. So, all right, we'll see if I can get it right. Because if I miss one, I'm going to have an agent that's not super happy with me. So we just brought on an agent in Gulf Shores, Alabama, Ashley, who's really incredible. She has her own big brand down there. She's a lot of fun. And that's Gulf Shores, Alabama. Kirkland Powell's in Nashville, Tennessee. We have Madeline and Brandon, who run the powerhouse team in the Smokies, which is Gatlinburg and Sevierville area. I have Shane O'Donnelly, who covers the entire state of Kentucky, which more out of Louisville and Lexington, where you guys are more into the more into the southern areas, more like the Bourbon Trail or like the Red River Gorge area.
Scratch that name, everybody.
And yeah, you didn't hear that one. And we're in the Poconos with Michael Klein. All right, here's where I'm for. We're in Southern California with Stephanie Figueros, who's amazing. She runs the STR Nation conference out in California. Where else? We're in Myrtle Beach with Rivers and Frankie, who are a father and son team out there. Really, really smart guys. Rivers is in his 20s, and this guy runs a fund for short-term rentals that's already taken on money from Goldman Sachs on Wall Street. Like, I mean, the kid is smarter than me. And
I feel inadequate.
All of our Yeah, they like rave about him. He's so cool. And then we have a big team in Branson, Missouri, which is the Lightfoot and Youngblood team. There's 10 agents down there in Branson. And I hope I'm not forgetting anywhere now. Oh, the Finger Lakes of New York. We just brought on Josh Briner, who's a newly licensed agent. But like you, Justin, he actually ran a big management company there for about the last 5 years. So I have been trying to convince him to get his license for a long time now. And he finally just got that.
I've been trying the same with Justin. So I understand. Just kidding.
Justin, you'd be such a good agent.
I have some new things going on. I'm good. Thank you.
Well, I mean, incredible job. I mean, honestly thought that list was going to be shorter. I wasn't aware of all of that. So, kudos to you for building that team. That really speaks to your experience and breadth of knowledge, not just in North Carolina, but outside of it. So that's why we wanted to have you on today. And let's talk about buying property in other states. What challenges do you have with clients whenever they come to you? And let's say they don't live in North Carolina, you're going to refer them to one of your other agents in the Poconos or Myrtle Beach because, they want a property that does well there. What are some of the qualifying questions that you ask them to kind of get them to the right area? And what are some of the challenges that you run into when looking for a property or during the transaction?
Yeah, I think, during COVID, at the beginning of COVID, even a little bit past it, buying sight unseen, like, you and Justin did in Boone, was really, really common at that point. And there was a good excuse, right? It's hard to fly. It's hard to travel. I don't want to see you in person, right? Like you're not masking up or whatever. There's so many different things. Now, post-COVID, it's gotten a little bit different where Airbnb has blown up as this big thing, this short-term rental investing thing. And there's a lot of information out there about it. And people want to come to town. They want to come and see properties. It's really difficult in a place like Asheville where inventory is really limited. And what we're looking for is really specific types of properties that they're normally if somebody's moving from somewhere else and they come into town, they're like, I want a neighborhood. I want this school district. Please set up a tour for me. We'll see 6 or 8 houses in a day and then we'll decide. For short-term rentals, it's like, if your budget's $600,000, I might not have anything interesting for you to look at for 2 weeks from now. And so then when it does pop up on a Saturday and it's gone by Sunday, we have to mobilize really quickly. So I decided to grow my team here locally into salaried individuals rather than lots of commissioned sales reps or anything like that, so that we could operate really quickly and really fast for our clients when those opportunities do hit the market. But that's been a little bit of a roadblock recently is people really want to get back into that coming to town to tour things, but there's not a lot to see. Yeah. So they say things like, we want to come in and we want to see some houses. And, I tell them like, we won't just.
It's like, I can show you some houses, but they might not be able to be short-term rentals.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like we can tour the area. We'll give you a little guide, but that's been difficult lately. So we're trying to figure out what does it look like when we might have more inventory. So hopefully that comes soon. But honestly, I don't see it happening.
No, because like you said, they move so fast. Whenever short-term rental, furnished turnkey short-term rental hits the market, close in 30 days, and open up your calendar and start making money. It's anytime I list one, I'll have 15 agents reaching out to me immediately, all of them with their own short-term rental buyers. It's not going to last. You don't even have time to buy a plane ticket to get some places to take a look, let alone get there and tour it in person.
Yeah. I think it really reflects how much you have to have an agent that you trust, that knows what they're doing is so important. Jonathan, I know you work with a lot of short-term rental buyers and sellers as well. It's so different from any other type of real estate. It's also it's sort of like commercial investing in real estate, right? But it's not, because it's residential real estate. So it has this different spin on it. There's different connotations involved. And it really requires somebody that knows what they're doing and they've done it before, which is why I decided to specialize in it. But I see people make a lot of mistakes when they don't work with an agent that knows what they're doing. It's really, really important.
What are some of those mistakes you've seen?
I think I just saw this the other day in Sarasota. The agent that a buyer was working with told their client, oh, yeah, you can short-term rent it. I know people that short-term rent in this area. And they found out on the day of closing that they couldn't do short-term rentals in that neighborhood for anything under 30 days. This is a massive investment. Yeah. This is not nothing. For most people, buying a first home nowadays is hard, let alone buying an investment property. People are putting their lives on the line. One thing, I don't know if you guys get this, but I get people sometimes that think I work with BlackRock or these major corporations. I've never worked with a big short-term rental fund. I've never worked with a client that owned more than maybe 5 short-term rentals. Most of my clients own 0 or maybe 1 short-term rentals. I'd say 90% of them. And so these are nurses, they're doctors, they're sheriffs. I just worked with a sheriff and his wife who's a healthcare worker. They're teachers. These are people that are putting everything into it. And so I take that really seriously. And I see agents out there that aren't taking that super duper serious right now.
The sheriff certainly has an advantage if he has any guests that want to hold over a little bit. Needs to go get them out of the property. Thankfully, that's never really happened to us. I think it's rare, but a lot of people ask about that. And
we had that. I'll tell you on that sheriff, actually, his neighbor, who he was totally allowed to do short-term rentals, the day after he bought it, his neighbor wrote this email and says, we're gonna hassle you. We don't want short-term rentals. We're gonna threaten you. We're gonna blah, blah, blah. He wrote this big email back. He said, you'll be violating this law and that law and this law and nuisance laws. And if you're gonna tell all my people all this, and I was like, yeah.
Pays to know the law for sure.
Over the years, we've seen lots of opposition like that in neighborhoods where neighbors are threatening to do things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some do. And, homeowners can have sometimes little recourse in how to handle that. If you're not an expert in the law, like the sheriff, if you're not an attorney to, send threatening letters or file something with the court easily, that can get expensive if you do want to take action. And I think that's why we've always operated under the premise of, be a good neighbor first and a good host second. Your neighbors live there permanently. And you own that property, so you're essentially their neighbor, even though you don't live there. They earn that. They deserve that. And people who don't do that is what gives short-term rentals sometimes a bad reputation, or makes people think that way. Whenever they hear that one's coming into the neighborhood or right next door, they automatically just get tense and expect the worst, when it very rarely ever happens in our experience.
Yeah, I think, the sheriff wrote me the letter first. And so I told him, I said, why don't we add another paragraph or two at the end that talks about things that you're going to do for the neighborhood, right? So, let's address parking if that's been a problem in the past. And I totally got it from the neighbor's perspective, because the person that owned this house before was running it like a bachelor pad, and they were just letting people do whatever they want, and they didn't have a good neighbor policy. So it is really important. A short-term rental I bought last year, personally, my neighbors love me. I mean, we just, donated $25,000 to new roads all the way up to all the neighbors.
Wow.
Our previous neighbors gave them hell. They wouldn't give them $1, wouldn't contribute, said take them to court, and they lived there. So now my neighbors love me. They call me. They say, hey, this is an issue. We know you'll take care of it. And we work together. We've got this kind of symbiotic relationship. So I think making friends with the neighbor is a massive part of being a successful host, because they're like your eyes and ears, right? They're the ones that are going to, call you and tell you like, hey, somebody's throwing a party. We don't want parties. We don't want people destroying neighborhoods or anything like that. Most of my guests, I'd say 95% of them, are families that there's no way they could afford the 6 hotel rooms that it would take to house all those people and come to town. So the stories that they get to tell me, and that I kind of then get to tell the local community about how grandparents were able to come with their kids, and then their grandkids, and sometimes 4 generations are able to travel with each other. Things like this it wasn't possible, 20 years ago. It wasn't possible for this type of travel to even be affordable or happen for families like this.
Absolutely. And, hotels certainly have a place. They offer a lot of amenities. If you're a business traveler there for, 1 to 3 nights, sure, yeah, go stay in a hotel. You have a per diem. It's being covered. But for those of all, especially the larger travel, multi-generational, larger families, it's, better cost, because you get the entire house and less than the price of all of those hotel rooms, sometimes about 50% less. If you look at some of these average daily rates and compare them, to hotel rooms times 2, 3, 4. But also you have space to enjoy each other. If you have hotel rooms, if they have 2 queen beds in there, 1 king bed, everybody has to go down to the lobby and talk. Or you have to go to a restaurant where you're forced to get a bigger table, and it's just not as intimate and has all the public around. But here you could sit down, watch a movie, get caught up, sit on the front porch, much more inviting experience. And, that's going to lend itself to giving you better memories and a better trip. So very often this is a great choice for people who just can't use, traditional methods of hospitality whenever they travel. And Tyler, going back to one point that you made earlier, you talked about the person at closing who found out that they could not do short-term rentals, that they had to switch to a midterm rental model.
Not me or my agent. Just want to throw that out there.
For sure, yeah. I've seen that happen as well. I've had people reach out to me, with questions about permits because they've already purchased the property. They were told they could do short-term rentals. Turns out they can't. And, some people might think, well, it's an investment. you're still making money. But what people have to realize is they're running those numbers for the pro formas off of short-term rental income, which is often higher, I would say probably 80 to 95% of the time. Short-term rental income is going to be higher than looking at a midterm rental, especially if it's a large house with a large number of bedrooms. You're going to be limited on who you can rent that to and how much you can charge per month. So that might take you from a 10 to sometimes 15% cap rate all the way down to like a 5. And aside from appreciation and depreciation, you might as well have just taken that money and put it in a CD for 5% and made the same return on that and not had the headache of running the short-term rental. I mean, it's the income that you receive that makes up for some of the headaches and the additional hands-on that you have to be that you don't with long-term rental properties.
Yeah, it's a space that's maturing so much more nowadays. So, there are folks out there saying like, oh, you can just buy anything, you can rent it. A stance that me and my company have taken is really these days. You asked Jonathan about like, what do we do to pre-qualify our clients? That's a really important question nowadays, right? Like there are times where I will tell a client, you should not do this. If I just feel like they're not going to be a success, I'm upfront with them nowadays, because at the end of the day, I don't want to call 6 months down the road where they're not successful, because the only people I've seen not be successful in short-term rentals are the ones that didn't take our advice. We told them everything they would need to do at the property to get it to a place where it would perform well enough for them to hit their goals. And then they bought the property, they close on it, and they launch it. And then they didn't do a bunch of stuff they said they were going to do. And they inevitably come back to me 6 months or a year later and they say, well, I just wanted to see what was going to happen. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. We told you up front. So we're pretty tough on that nowadays. Like we will specifically not work with clients that we think that there's a chance that's going to happen. We're talking to people about investing 6 figures nowadays into their properties, right? I mean, like in design and amenities and furniture, there are people that come to me and they say, oh, well, I've had agents tell me we can invest 20 grand and we'll launch an awesome property. And I tell them, I'm so sorry. You've been lied to. Let's get on and we'll talk about a real story here about what's going to happen and what in reality you're going to have to put into a property. Do you have that? Is it possible? Because if not, then we need to maybe look at a different route. You either need to save up money. Maybe we need to look in a different area where there are more turnkey properties or something like that. But in Asheville specifically, you're not buying something and not putting massive 5 figures into it, 50, I would say minimum, because otherwise you're just going to perform average, and average just means it's going to go down over time. And in a year, you're going to be in a place you don't want to be in.
Yeah. To your point, Airbnb has come such a long way that you can't just do a status quo. If you're going to stand out, you have to put in the money and the time to make it look proper and invite your guests, because otherwise the market is so saturated almost everywhere that if you're not standing out, it's not going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. Staying on that topic for a second, Justin, Tyler, why don't you both give me your thoughts on more so around that? What does it require to be a great short-term rental property and to stand out as more properties are coming to market? I understand that might be location specific. Here in Louisville, we don't need hot tubs. In North Carolina, a lot of people filter by hot tubs. What are some trends that you're seeing, some things that you're seeing that guests really like that help these properties stand out?
Sure. Well, here in Louisville, Kentucky, we're all about bourbon and horse racing. And I think that is one way to stand out. Make your property specific to your city, because people are coming to your city for an experience. And they're likely, if they're coming here in the spring and fall and summer, they're likely going to the distilleries and the track. So if you can find ways to mimic your city and represent your city, that's one thing that's going to make you stand out. Beige and white walls and gray walls, that doesn't really do it anymore. You really need to have art pieces and wallpaper and color and things that really make you stand out and pop, because when you're swiping through on on Airbnb, when you're just scrolling, all those white walls are going to blend in. Make yourself stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen in, on like the Bourbon Trail and stuff, people are doing like cigar rooms and really great like poker rooms and stuff, really leaning into everything that you guys offer. And I think offering those like really amenitized experiences, talking about big groups getting together, families getting together, it's all about creating, memory moments. Like, where are people going to create memories across your property if you're going to have a larger property? I think it's so important. That's truly what sets you apart from a hotel. Hotel is a place to sleep, and people do need places to sleep when they travel. And I think short-term rentals are becoming the destination in and of itself. Specifically, I will go out and I don't care where I'm going to go. I just want a great property to stay at. Like, I'm looking more for the experience of the property than the area itself. So like, we'll look on and scroll through Airbnb looking for, kind of that experience. If I'm looking for a getaway with my husband to just, get away with the dogs somewhere around 2 hours away from Asheville, and I won't care where it is. And so I find a lot of times like the house itself is becoming the destination a lot of the time.
Yeah. And to that point too, in addition to creating a unique experience, also, I have to highly recommend like, make it comfortable. At the end of the day, no one wants to come home and plop down on your modern settee. Okay. Like, we need cozy couches. We want thick, comfy chairs. Like, people want to relax after being at the Bourbon Trail or the beach or hiking all day. Like, no one wants to come home and sit on some hard modern furniture. Is it cute? Yes. But let's buy one piece like that and put it in the corner of a bedroom as opposed to in your main common spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think
Same goes for pillows. And two are not enough. Some people like to sleep with one under their knees. Thank you.
Jonathan specifically.
What were you going to say, Tyler?
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's incredibly important. And I don't think enough people are talking about, like, there's so many like Airbnb designers out there now, and they're totally going for the Instagram shot, forgetting that somebody actually has to use that stuff. And so it's interesting because now this industry really is maturing so much, because you went from like, okay, you don't have to do a whole lot because everybody's staying in Airbnbs and there's not enough of them. And then it was, okay, now there's too many. So now we have to design them really well and make them an experience. And then it was like, okay, well, we're designing these Instagrammable experiences, but they suck to sit on. Like the couch, is this orange, like, cool thing to look at. And like, then you sit on it and you're so uncomfortable, and then you get a bad review. Right. So it is interesting how the industry and the hospitality behind it is maturing. And it is different than the hotel industry because nobody's ever done this with residential homes before. So it is kind of like a new frontier. I think for me, that's why I really love it, is because it's maturing, but every time it gets to another stage, it's never been done before. Some of these properties we see nowadays are like little mini theme parks in and of themselves. And it's really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, you don't just want to be the prettiest girl at the dance. You want to be the whole package.
That's right.
So just a couple more questions about on the purchase side. What are you seeing from financing, specifically with people coming from out of state? Even when I work with investors, non-short-term rental investors, some of our local banks, our local credit unions, which are very investor friendly, don't like lending to out-of-state people. Sure, they still have the property as an asset, but they can't go knock on your door and ask you to pay them that money that you owe to them that you're behind on. DSCR loans are certainly becoming more popular, and we've had a few episodes on that. You can go back and listen if you want more information on DSCR loans. In that space, they are a little less picky. So are you seeing that people who are coming in from a different state where their primary residence is to buy somewhere, are they leaning more towards that DSCR product, or do they have other type of capital raises in place? Are they cash?
I would say nowadays, probably 8 out of 10 of my clients are using a 10% down second home loan. So I work with a lot of people that are, mid to high income W-2 earners. So a lot of doctors, a lot of tech workers out of California and Texas, a lot of tech workers, healthcare workers and teachers, sheriffs again. So most of them are using that second home occupancy loan, which is 10% down. And it's great for people because they can put a little bit less down, which means they have more money to actually put into the property itself. Yeah, exactly. And design and amenities and great artwork and all that stuff. And so for me, that's what I'm also using. It also means you can only buy one or maybe two in a specific area because there are, limits on how far out you can invest. And so like for me, I've got one in Asheville and I've got one up in the high country and I've got one all the way west out in Bryson City, but I'm pretty tapped out now in our area, like 150 miles spread out between those three properties. But I'm scared to invest out of my own area because I know it so well that when I look at investing in Florida, I'm from Florida, you would think knowing Florida, for 20 odd years that I lived there, that I would feel more comfortable there. But I go there and I don't know what's the good area. What's a good street to do it on? What do people like when they visit there? How's insurance? How are taxes? Right. So it's nerve wracking to invest.
Talking about Florida, insurance, high. Taxes, high. Yeah. What else you want to know? So yeah, I think getting back to lending, that's what most of my clients are using anyways. But DSCR is really popular as you don't need to show any income, but the property itself does. And then most of my clients are using credit unions nowadays. And I had a client yesterday, she told me, well, I'm going to wait because rates are coming down. And I said, okay, well, you got to think about this. What is going to happen when rates come down? Everybody's going to want to buy because everybody's saying the same thing. More crowded marketplace.
The credit unions that I work with are at like 6.5% interest rates right now, where most mortgage brokers are at 8 or 8.5% for second home loans still. TSCRs are at 8.5%. And so if we can work with this credit union at 6.5% today, then everybody that gets in the market in 6 months at 6.5%, you don't have to compete with them anymore. You get to get the same thing. You get to get it ahead of time. And now you don't have to compete with all those people later. So I hope that people are looking at like a deal is not just comprised of one factor. It's made up of so many different things. So if you have the funds to invest today, I'm not saying there's like, it's the perfect time to it. I hate agents that they always say it's the perfect time to invest. Like, come on, if you're going to say that for the rest of your life,
marry the house, date the rate.
Yeah, all of that BS. It's all marketing tactics. But look, be on the lookout, analyze deals, practice doing it, right? And then that way, when you do find the right deal and you come across it and it makes sense, you're ready to go on.
Really good advice. Let's switch to management. Obviously, you have this asset now. You have to decide what to do with it. Management companies, what's the rate, kind of going rate in your area, Tyler? Is it like 25, 30?
Probably 20% in our area 20, at this point.
I'm shocked.
And on management, I backed out of it. I sold my property management company about 2 years ago. It's a hard business. It's very tough.
Yeah.
Justin, I don't know how you managed 70 properties. I got to give you props on that because I gave up at 50. I was like, this is too much. I was like waking up with nightmares and stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised I still look this good. It was exhausting.
Some days he might have a little PTSD still.
Yeah, no. Much like you, Tyler, we sold our management company a year ago. And leading up to that point, I thought it was going to be really hard because it had been our baby for so long, for like 8 years. But I've had a sense of relief after selling it just because that is a lot of properties to manage. And while in the beginning it was so exciting and I had so much momentum and all of these new learning experiences, by the time I got to the end, I was ready for a new venture for sure.
It's a hard business and it's a thankless business because when everything is going well, what are owners paying you to do? They're paying to never have to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're paying for. And so when things are going well, you never hear from anybody. And that creates this environment of only negative feedback all the time. Because when they're going well for guests, you don't hear from them, right? Like, and you don't want to bother them either because they're having a great time on vacation. So you never hear from them. But man, the first hair they find on a pillow, you are the scum of the earth.
There is an ant
hair on a pillow. I was about to say ants. I hate hearing about the word ants. Like ants happen, guys. We're in the South, okay? Like bugs happen.
Stink bugs in the
Doesn't
windows.
mean your property is filthy.
I mean, you can clean that place that morning, and by 2 p.m. you can have a stink bug in the window. Or a cobweb. I mean, that takes like 2 days to create. Sorry, the last guest was here 2 days ago. Yes.
I don't want to go down a negative path, but it does feel like I'm going to cut that off real quick.
Yeah, let's make a little more
I do
upbeat
want to
here.
say that, I was going to say, it feels like, the pandemic kind of like shifted people's thoughts on cleanliness and what hospitality is. And so I think that that's one thing that started to drain me after the pandemic. Like I was like, yay, made it through the pandemic. So exciting. We're still successful. And then I was like, oh, everyone's really ungrateful and mad about everything now. And I can't do anything right despite how hard I'm working. So to anyone listening, yes, Airbnb and short-term rental management can be fun and lucrative, but you do have to know what you're signing up for. So a lot of patience involved, a high tolerance, and a lot of patience.
Absolutely.
Thick skin, very thick skin. And even people that have thick skin going into it, you're right, Justin. I mean, you end it very tired. I mean, I was ready to give my management company away at that point, and I was incredibly profitable. Yeah. I mean, we were profiting, 5, sometimes 6 figures a month. So it's not that like we weren't doing well, but it wasn't worth it. I mean, there was no amount of money that you could convince me to go scale like that again. I think I would still dabble if things were set up the right way, if systems were set and all the mistakes that I made and learned from that I definitely didn't repeat again. Maybe there's some world where, I don't know, but definitely not the way I did it before. It's so tough.
Tyler, what percentage?
I value my mental health now.
Tyler, what percentage of your buyers self-manage versus hiring a management company?
Nowadays, about 95%. I think that the way that the industry is going for vacation rental management is going to be a la carte services. So I think that you're going to see people buying Airbnbs and self-managing them, but then hiring out the services that they don't want to do. So if they don't want to do their own accounting, if they don't want to do their own maintenance, I've seen maintenance companies pop up that are like, you just tell us the problem and we'll handle everything from there. And maybe they're on a retainer and then a per hour fee after that. I launched a revenue management company, which means that we manage an Airbnb host's listings, pricing, and length of stay discounts and all of that for them. And I see that as a massive, massive resource for people. And it also kind of breaks out all of the parts of management that are really difficult for people to learn. You have to be an expert at revenue management nowadays. You have to be a data scientist to really compete. And individual hosts aren't going to do that, right? And so being able to hire that out for $150 a month, $200 a month, probably the best decision you could ever make and a massive return on investment as well. So I really see that industry kind of dying and going to more a la carte services, which I'm really excited about because I do think there were a lot of things I was good at in management. And I can also stay away from the stuff that I don't want to be involved in either, like accounting,
for sure.
For instance.
And, cleaning and linens, I think, have always been the notorious elephant in the room that usually, lands you the bad reviews or hard to get, pivoting at the last minute if somebody can't make it and you have a guest checking in. That compounds and becomes even more challenging when you have a property outside of your state, when you can't just get in your car and drive down there and do it yourself this one time and, maybe fire that person and find somebody else. But certainly self-managing saves you a lot of money. You said it's 20% down where you are. Sometimes along the coast and in highly touristed areas, it can be as high as 30, 35%. That's going to cut into your bottom line. That's also why it's good to find a place where you can use it yourself, almost take a free vacation and go there because it makes it worthwhile if you're not making sizable returns on it. And I tell you, for 35%, I better not ever get a phone call from them with something that I need to manage. But Justin manages our short-term rental in Boone, North Carolina by himself remotely. Justin, why don't you kind of walk us through that process if somebody wants to self-manage, be hands-on, really control those expenses and costs? How can they mimic what you're doing?
Sure. Well, fortunately, I am from there and I do have personal resources. But there was a period during our business where we were actually managing another house in Boone, a house in Asheville, and a house in Myrtle Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those opportunities, we actually had to, luckily, they were in tourist areas. So I do find that if you purchase a home or you're managing a home in a more tourist area, your the benefits are higher because I think that there's more people like to do cleaning and maintenance in those areas.
The a la carte services.
Because of exactly. And so, sometimes you just have to do a little bit of research to find some people that are available in that area. One way that you can do that is being a part of a Facebook group that's in that area, a short-term rental Facebook group in that area. Tons of resources in there. People are so willing to give information and share their good experiences in there. So that is how we found our cleaning and handyman person in Myrtle Beach, was just by vetting them out through referrals.
You're so smart. So on a daily basis, let's talk about this, because whenever I'm selling somebody their first short-term rental property, they're like, do you know any management companies? Because I don't have any time to manage this. And I'm thinking, it's one property. It's not that hard. You probably have like a 10 guest stays a month. I mean, you're talking to 10 people. They're there for 4 days. You're not on the phone with them 30 minutes a day. Your cleaner gets the schedule, like maybe beginning of the week. Maybe you're already booked for the month going in. Nothing changes. You don't have, a lot of communication there. What's the time commitment? What do you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to keep everything going well?
Well, we definitely like to be proactive and not reactive. So, I mean, when it comes to communicating with my cleaners, I'll send screenshots of any calendar updates as they occur. I don't wait, because if I wait too long, I'm going to forget. So I just do it when it occurs. I'll be like, hey, update for the month of June or July, whatever. For me personally, I make Mondays a day that I kind of do like admin or calendar or guest reviews. Like I kind of just like set aside a time to handle those things. So I'll update my calendar for the month of August, for example, because that's coming up. So I'll look at the month of August. What's my occupancy for the month of August? Can I do any rate drops to like bring people in? So I'll play with my calendars a little bit. I'll do all my reviews for the previous week for any guests that stayed there. And then another thing that I do is I learned early on from an Airbnb account manager that your listing can become stagnant. So you have to think about it like your listing is a can on a shelf at the grocery store. You need to dust that thing off regularly. So I'll even do something small, like going in and just like switching 2 pictures around just so that my listing is being active. Obviously, reviewing guests, that helps it to be active. Changing your race, that helps it to be active. But I just don't think there's a way that you can't be too active there. And so another thing that I do is Airbnb specifically, and I believe VRBO also, they will give you like, if you do your weekly percentage off, if someone books for a week, or your monthly percentage off if they book for a month, if Airbnb recommends that you adjust that, just adjust it. I think that the Airbnb algorithms want to see that you're active and that you're paying attention, and that's going to make you show in the top of the search results.
So how much time would you say that you spend a week managing that one property on a good week? I mean, obviously things are going to happen that require a little bit more of your time, but what would you estimate?
Rate adjustments, giving guest reviews, flipping pictures around. I mean, maybe 30 minutes a week if I'm just sitting there at my computer and dedicating the time. Those things don't take long. It's just a matter of doing them.
You're absolutely right.
So Netflix and host and chill.
Netflix.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, another good topic. While I have you here, let's just hit a few miscellaneous items too. One question I get a lot is about like TV service, TV streaming. What do you guys think? Do you need to provide Netflix and all that and keep it logged in, or just get a smart TV and let guests use their own apps?
I let guests use their apps.
Tyler, do you let them log in with their own usernames, or do you provide usernames?
I think for us, we've done like, we'll put Netflix in there because what we have had is we've had seniors come in and they're like, all we have is cable. So now we have nothing to watch at all. So typically
Mhm.
what I'll do is at least one Netflix account so they can find Law and Order or something, you know?
Mhm.
Uh, and
Wheel of
uh,
Fortune.
and then after that, yeah, exactly. After that, we kind of leave it up to them and let them know like all the streaming, it's all there. They can log into whatever they want, but then after that, it's up to them. Honestly, what we end up finding, because we do it, a lot of people try to use guest mode or whatever, and the cleaners have to like set it and set it all up and check it. Honestly, what we find
Yes.
is like people log their stuff in, and so when we go and visit our own short-term rentals, we just find all the accounts logged into random people's stuff.
Mhm.
And if we want to watch something, we just watch it on their account. And, you know, it's like, if we're like, we want to find out where we are in a season, we'll just log it out and log it back in into our own
Mhm.
account.
Yeah.
Thank you, guests,
Similar.
for providing that free service.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we only provide Wi-Fi at our properties and a smart TV, and I'm just a firm believer that we're in a day and age where everyone has a login for some app or something. So I do, like, in my notes when I like give guests their welcome and departing messages, I'll be like, "Hey, don't forget to log out of your account." But you know, to your point, people don't remember to do that, and then the next guest benefits. So it just becomes a snowball effect at that point. But yeah, I do believe that most people have a login for something these days. So I just provide the smart TV and the
Do you
apps on it.
guys do you guys ever go in and then look at like what people are watching and where like where they've left off? I think it tells a lot about somebody. Like there's some interesting stuff I've seen. I can't recall like anything specifically, but yeah, I remember looking at stuff and being like who is this person that like all they do is watch anime all day, but they didn't say they brought any kids with them, you
Oh,
know?
gosh.
Yeah,
Golly.
I've forgotten to log out of my own accounts before and then go see, to your point, anime or cartoons on there. And I'm like, okay, it's time to do a reset on this
That
account.
really messes up your algorithms. The things it's suggesting that I watch
Yes.
now. No, thank you.
That has happened so much. I think I have one Netflix account on at home, and I've been, you know, too busy to even like log it out. But yeah, I have like 16 different accounts on it now because then somebody will watch something and it screws up my whole algorithm. And I'm like, I just want to watch my show, but I can't even find it. It's like Korean dramas, you know, or something have taken over Netflix.
Yes.
Let's see. Any other topics that you all want to discuss? Tyler, any questions that you get a lot that would be good for us to address here? Just kind of about operations, things like that. You know, new people coming in who haven't had a short-term rental before, and you know, just kind of how do you handle this? How do you handle that? Anything that stands out or is common?
Yeah, I think nowadays it's really important to understand that this is a business, and sure, you can buy a vacation home and like have it with a management company, but just understand what you're going into it for. Because if you're breaking even on a property, it's really easy to slide into negative cash flow, right? Like breaking even is this close to having to pay out for your vacation home. And if you're okay with that, then great. But just understand that Airbnb isn't some gold mine or ATM printing machine that is guaranteed to do well.
Right.
It's really, really important to understand what your goal is going into it. So if that's okay to be a little bit negative on some months, to be a little bit positive and to have a vacation home with a management company, then great. But if your goal is to really cash flow, make sure you're working with somebody. If you don't know yourself 100%, make sure you're working with somebody that 100% knows and has a track record of that. So like I get people, you know, the whole reason, Jonathan, that I post, you know, how many sales we're doing and what's our volume and stuff like that. It's not to boast. I'm not that guy. I'm actually like, I would rather sit in the background and like, I'm a computer nerd. I like the numbers. I like all the spreadsheets and stuff. And I want my clients to trust that they're working with somebody with experience. That feels really good to me when my clients do trust me. And so we have to do that kind of promotion out
absolutely.
there, right? So
yeah,
I think that would be the most important thing, is just make sure you're working with the right person. It doesn't have to be me, but just, I mean, vet them, figure out what their past has been
Could
like
be
in
me.
short-term rentals. Yes, please. Jonathan has a wealth of knowledge and experience. Justin has a wealth of knowledge and experience, really experienced guys that I love. I know I can't wait for you guys to come back to Western North Carolina. I know we had a great time going out to dinner with you guys, so we're looking forward to
Mhm.
another one of those when you guys come back.
Tyler, last
Yeah.
question. When somebody comes to you, they want to buy a short-term rental and they say, I just want a short-term rental. I want it to be profitable. I don't care where it is. Go. What do you tell them? How do you get them to the right place?
Yeah.
Because I get that a lot.
I have found actually the number one thing that affects whether somebody's going to be successful or not, I've actually found, is their relationship with the realtor. Are they going to take that person's advice? Is there that level of trust there? So the agent has to be good. The buyer has to trust them, and then their personalities have to match. So I've actually found that, like, personality profiling our clients. So I have a guy in my team, his name is Scott, and Scott's whole job is to figure out what is the personality of the buyer? Who are they, and who are they going to work the best with? Because there are clients out there that I just do not work well with. And like, we just know it immediately. And then there are clients out there that will rave and just, have the best experience with me. And what's the difference? It's not my level of service. It's did our personalities match? And so I've actually found I don't see almost anyone else doing this. I've not heard of anybody else doing this, but we're personality profiling the client and then matching them with the right agent.
Yeah.
And it's more powerful than the area. There's one thing that overrides that, which is, does the client have really specific experiences in a certain area? Did they vacation there when they were kids? We get that a lot. Oh, I used to go, and now I want to bring my family. That's an overriding factor that will determine location a lot of times. But if it's really just profit, there's no one area that's more profitable than another, because if there was, it would immediately become unprofitable because everybody would go there, oversaturate the market, and be unprofitable. So
they can almost be profitable anywhere.
Yeah, you can be profitable anywhere. I'm a huge firm believer in that. I think you could buy something in Orlando today and still be profitable, in Gatlinburg and still be profitable.
Kenny Bunkport,
and
Boise.
Yeah. Yeah. South Bend, Indiana, like anywhere.
No, not there.
I think you can.
No, I'm kidding.
Not there.
I think that's where Pete Buttigieg is from.
That's right. Yeah, he cleaned it up, from what I heard.
So maybe now.
Maybe we'll see him as vice president.
Thank you for that advice. Justin, what about you? Anything that you think would be important for our listeners to know and hear about anything related to the subject we've been talking about today before we let them go?
Yeah, I think that just to kind of echo something that Tyler said earlier was I'm a referral source for the company that bought our company. Whenever I start speaking to people who are interested in being a part of the short-term rental world, my first question is like, do you know the local laws and regulations? Like, if you don't know those and understand them, and then you go and buy a property, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot more than likely. So it's really important to know your neighborhoods, know your local laws and regulations. And then again, something else that we talked about earlier, just think about when you're designing it, like make it a unique experience. Use your personality, use the things that are attracting people to your city. Just make it a unique and comfortable experience. No one wants to stay in a sterile environment when they go on vacation.
Absolutely. Tyler, that example that he gave earlier about somebody buying a property that the agent said could short-term rental, then they couldn't. Remember that information is coming from an agent. Now, first and foremost, you might have some recourse against your agent if that happens, but let's prevent you from getting there before it happens. So number one is make sure that you're working with a knowledgeable agent. I know the laws in Louisville, frontward, backwards. I can recite them to you. I know every iteration, when they changed, about the conditional use permits, which ones are grandfathered in, which ones are not, will be removed if you haven't renewed your registration, if it's lapsed for 6 months. OR zoning has changed, and now that's grandfathered in. So you have to make sure the registration is valid before you purchase the property. You can't just take their advice for it. Because I've already had clients who those have lapsed and they haven't been able to renew. So now they've moved from short-term rentals into mid-term rentals, because they had things going on in their life and forgot about it. So to take a quote from Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. If your agent tells you something, call zoning, call planning, make sure that they are giving you the right information. And better yet, give them the address of the property that you want to buy and let them tell you if it qualifies or what you would need to do. Here in Louisville, we have a 600-foot rule. If there is another short-term rental that is non-owner occupied, that is residentially zoned, that is within 600 feet of another, chances are you are going to be declined immediately. And with duplexes, you live in one side, you rent out the other, that's actually not considered owner occupied because it has a separate dwelling unit to it. And it used to fall under the same rules as that conditional use permit. It couldn't be within 600 feet of something else. But recently, those have been relaxed. And so you still have to go through the permitting process, but you're more likely to get approved. And keep in mind that nothing is guaranteed until it is approved. And so that is why it is always good to buy an operating, active short-term rental whenever you can. And if it's furnished, even better. Not only does that save you money, but it saves you a lot of hassle and headache. And if you're located in a different state, you're either going to shell out a lot of money or get you a U-Haul and get ready to drive cross country and assemble all that furniture. So all good things to consider.
I was just going to say on Kentucky, like I hear from people a lot because, I'm familiar with a lot of people that are buying in Kentucky, and we hear a lot of our clients say like, oh, well, I just don't want to look in Kentucky because the regulations are difficult. And I beg to differ. I always tell people like buy where the regulations are difficult, because if you can get yourself in there and the 600-foot rule, for instance, if you can find like this unicorn magical piece of property that's right in between all these other places that are 600 feet, now you have this really valuable asset that nobody else could ever recreate. Like way less competition forever. You have this massive asset that's going to appreciate better. It's going to cash flow better. People aren't going to stop going to Louisville. Louisville's not going to stop growing. Our population is exploding.
Not unless they stop making bourbon.
Or people stop drinking.
That part too.
No, I always tell people like buy where regulations are really strict, because if you can find something and work with a knowledgeable agent like Jonathan on that, then it's so much better than buying somewhere that's totally unregulated, because those regulations are coming.
There are also Facebook groups online that are nationwide of people and international of people selling short-term rental properties. That's always a great way to get in there and check it out. And Tyler and I, both at EXP, we can sell in all 50 states, and we have those networks set up already. So reach out to us if you are interested in buying a short-term rental in any of the 50 states. Doesn't have to be Louisville, doesn't have to be Asheville or where a member of his team is. We'd be happy to work with you, run those numbers, make sure it looks good, keep an eye out for property types that you're looking for. If you see something on one of these Facebook groups, bring it to us. We'll talk to the agent, get all the information, make sure it's sold furnished, see the condition, get a local agent to go in there and walk around it for you. But we're extremely knowledgeable. We're happy to share that with anybody who is working with us. If you're not working with us, we'll give you a little bit. But if you're really working with us, we'll write the book for you so that you have no questions at all. But thank you both for being on the show today. Tyler Coon, he is a real estate agent, Asheville, North Carolina, with Savvy, brokered by EXP. I'm going to see him in October at our conference down in Miami. Specializes in short-term rentals, has a vast team all across the United States helping him to sell in those markets. And my amazing husband, Justin Reid, who was Chief Operating Officer with 70 short-term rental properties under management at our former short-term rental management company, sold last year, called Key Source Properties. He's now moved into home enhancements in the Louisville market. So if you're listening locally, want to update your short-term rental properties or your houses, he is your home update concierge and can handle anything that you would like to accomplish. So Tyler, Justin, where can they find you if they want to reach out?
They can find me on Instagram at the Justin Reid. That's spelled REID. Or you can email me at justin@gokeysource.com.
Great.
And you can find me at savvy.realty online. There's no .com there, www.savvy.realty. And shoot me an email, tyler@savvy.realty anytime. I'll be happy to set up a call. I do calls with all of my new clients, 30, 45 minutes to go over the whole industry. So happy to do that with anybody anytime.
Great.
Thanks, Justin and John. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
And thank you all for being on today. And thank you all for listening. This is the Real Estate Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Klunk. We are the #1 real estate mentor podcast on the internet, according to me, and growing. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another exciting real estate topic. with nuggets of information that you can take and apply to your real estate business today to start making more money. Have a great day.